In 1990, sculptor MLSnowden received a very special gift from her father, bequeathed to him years before by his friend and mentor, a unique legacy passed down through 3 generations of sculptors. The gift was the original sculpting tools of Auguste Rodin. MLSnowden's works have their origin in 19th century Paris in Rodin's sculpting studio.
Rodin, because of certain directions in his works, was seen as an opportunity to rethink abstraction.
It was at his Rodin studio that Rodin employed and befriended a promising young sculptor named Robert Eberhard. As was the custom in those days, Rodin bequeathed his sculpting tools to his friend and protege Eberhard in recognition of his contributions and artistic potential. When Rodin passed away in 1917, Eberhard emigrated to the United States and was quickly accepted as a sculptor professor at Yale University.
He was a consummate craftsman, Eberhard was. When he emigrated in 1917 to Yale University, they snapped him up. He was very well respected, but his largest contribution was to education. But in my father, he found his sole pupil.
George Snowden came upon sculpture as a career quite by accident. While working as a factory laborer in the early 1920s, he produced a clay figure of the head of Christ in mourning over a friend who had been killed that day. Snowden's mother brought the sculpture to their minister.
He was so overcome by the portrait that in the dead of winter, he took it on a train to Yale and carried it to the sculpture department where he met Eberhard. Eberhard saw this clay. He had taken the wet clay on a train, and he uncovered the rags from this, and there was this head of Christ. It was exquisite. And he said, "I want you to bring the artist to me."
When George Snowden came to Eberhard, he was adopted as the recipient of the Rodin legacy and was eventually passed the Rodin tools in celebration of his receipt of the coveted Prix de Rome.
He won the greatest art prize of his age, the Prix de Rome. My father was literally taken from a factory and discovered that he possessed this enormous, unbelievable talent for sculpture.
George Snowden's numerous accomplishments include over 100 public sculpture programs, such as the Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Washington, D.C., the largest cathedral in North America. Set designs for many Hollywood films, including Ben-Hur, The 10 Commandments, The Robe, and The Barefoot Contessa. Sculptures for the 1939 World's Fair, and the original design elements for Walt Disney's Disneyland theme parks.
He became friends with Walt Disney, who invited him to create sculpture for the theme parks. Probably most of the finished sculptural forms seen at Disneyland were created by my father.
Mary Louise Snowden found her passion for sculpture in her father's studio.
There's a magic that happened with clay. I remember my first touch of clay, that there was a feeling of having suddenly been transformed.
For over 30 years, Mary Louise worked beside her father until his death in 1990.
My whole experience with my father was a process of osmosis. I was there alongside of him in the projects, in the studio. We worked side by side in the sense that I had my clay, he had his. Clay is a magic material. It's a mystery. It has suspended quartz crystals that are transducers of energy. And everything that you are and you intend comes through the fingers.
MLSnowden's original works are first produced in clay in her private studio. From there, they are taken to the master casters, who will transform them into bronze.
Canova used to say that clay is the life, plaster is the death, and marble is the resurrection. And I say that clay is the life. Let's skip the plaster and let's continue the life in bronze. I'm present always within the foundry. I always work my own waxes, the casting process. It's a very technical aspect of sculpture. It's the thing that gives the work a new life. So I've always thought of it as a very vital part of involvement in the studio.
While her masterful technique has been heralded throughout the world, her personal ambition is to communicate the energy involved in the creation.
These are intensely personal works. They're made for my own eye and evocations of my personal relationship with clay.
Snowden is the author of more than 100 public and private commissions, and her work has been exhibited in many of the most prestigious fine art venues in the world. She was the recipient of the inaugural Alex Edel Grant for Notable Lifetime Achievement in American Sculpture, awarded to her by the National Sculpture Society. In 1992, MLSnowden became one of the last artists to receive the coveted Rodin Prize for Sculpture. The work, entitled Cataclasis, won kudos from artists and critics throughout the world.
When I see the back of Cataclasis, or I see the way the light transits itself over passages of the clay, there's a profundity that occurs that I know that it has written itself properly.
The unique fortuity behind Snowden's receipt of the prize, however, goes beyond the title. Cataclasis, the prize-winning sculpture, was sculpted not only with Rodin's technique, but with his original sculpting tools.
You work with the tools, and they're more of a symbol of an ideal of a consummate eye that these men had. They're an ideal of devoting your whole life to clay. They speak.